So Gallatin County is the smallest county in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky has 120 counties, which is kind of ridiculous, but it's actually wonderful. It's great because you have lots of municipalities. You have lots of districts. You got lots of regions. Fuck that word. Municipalities. So you have lots of regions and districts, and it's more localized, so that way people can coalesce. Every county has these, gargantuan fucking big ass courthouses, and the courthouse is where, a lot of the bloody feuds happened and the wars were happening. That's the center of the politics of the county, is the courthouse. And I'm going to be talking about the origins of the name of Gallatin County, a little bit about Albert Gallatin, a little bit about just a little bit about everything, but the origins of Warsaw, the origins of Sparta, Glencoe, Gent, like where their names came from. There's also been there was a slave uprising in Gallatin County, or it was an insurrection panic right before the American Civil War had happened, and then there was the Abijah Gridley was killed in 1871, then 1876. The Frenches were hung, so there's lynching that's going on after the war. Kentucky's like so fucked up. It's so stupid. Kentucky supplied more troops for the Union. 80 to 100,000 troops fought for the North, fought for Abraham Lincoln. And then you had about 40 to 50,000 that fought for the Confederacy. So more than double, twice the amount of Kentuckians were fighting for the Union. Our government stayed with the Union. The Confederates got pushed out of town. Beriah Magafin had to resign, the governor. But that doesn't stop Magafin County from naming their whole fucking county after this fucking Confederate fucking trading piece of shit, right? I mean, he's declaring war against the American government. It makes no sense that people who wave the Confederate flags are also the same assholes that wave the American flag. It's like, make up your fucking mind. Those two flags were opposed to each other at one point. The Confederate flag is the first terrorist, the first treasonist. They're the people that said, fuck the American government, we'd rather just be on our own and just stick it out to ourselves. So fuck the Union, right? And we want to keep our slaves. So Kentucky is in a dubious spot because they were part of the Union, but there was sympathy for the Confederates, and it was sort of brother versus brother. Most people were fighting for the Union, but after the war, you get all these Confederates coming back out because they didn't like the martial law, and they didn't like, Lincoln coming in and changing their lifestyles. But essentially their lifestyles is to keep slavery, and slavery only benefited the few plantation owners. So if you're a poor white, slavery doesn't help you. If you're a poor white, slavery only hurts you, because if you're a poor white, you have to, charge for your labor. I'm going to get $1. I don't know how much things cost back in, but I'm going to get $1 an hour for my labor, right? Well, you can't compete with somebody that works for free. $1 an hour is way more expensive than for free, so that just drives your prices down. You can't compete with free. And then also people say, do you take care of something you own more or something you rent? And so for white people, they were renting their labor out, they were renting their bodies out, and therefore the owners didn't have as much, of a say-so, or didn't give a shit about their whole lives, whereas they did with the slaves. I'm not saying slavery was good, I'm just saying the institution of slavery made poor whites, it depressed the prices of the whites, and since the poor whites didn't actually get the benefit of slavery, then the only thing that poor whites got was some fucking illusion that they was actually better than black folks, when they was, probably worse off. They were wage slaves, so they weren't even, the slaves had, they were provided food and housing and all this other stuff. But a wage slave, you go there, you do your job, and you get the fuck out. If you have to sleep under a bridge or sleep in a mansion, they don't give a shit. They just want you to, cut the tobacco or pick the cotton or pick the tomatoes. And, right, so that's Gallatin County. You had all these slave uprising, and you had these lynchers, and you had all this racist violence, and you even still got remnants of Ku Klux Klan today. I've seen articles and pictures and flyers. So flyers, what is that, 1970s and shit? Who the fuck would keep a flyer for this long? So just in a few decades, we've had the Ku Klux Klan running around being a fucking crazy vigilante, psychopathic, fucking racist, just losers. They're just fucking losers. The Ku Klux Klan, they fucking wear a hood over their fucking face, and they travel in big ass fucking groups picking on, just some defenseless fucking black family. Like the Gridleys. You wanna know why Gridley Hill? There's a is haunted, right? The haunted hills of Gridley Hill, right? Oh my God, Gridley Hill's haunted. Well, why is Gridley Hill haunted? Well, drive through the curvy fucking roads and it's, you know, it's got all these trees and it just kind of makes you feel eerie and shit. But it's haunted because the Gallatin murdered all the Gridley family. They killed the Gridleys. They murdered them. They murdered the whole house, burnt the fucking thing down, shot anybody that tried to come out. Everybody died. Well, not everybody. Some of them was able to get out, and there's people actually looking for their bloodlines now. So I would love to actually say, hey, this is, you know, a lot of folks died in Gallatin County, or, you know, they got the fuck out as quick as they could. So the, you know, that's why Gridley Hill's haunted. So let's do some reading. You have the population density. Well, I don't want to talk about the pop. Let's do the demographics. So 97% is white. It's not, you know, that's not surprising considering the racial violence that has pervaded nearly the entire history of Gallatin County. Since it was formed, there was, you know, it was Indian land. The Shawnees, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Yuchi, Delaware Indians, they were living there first. So immediately, as soon as white people start getting on there, they're killing Native Americans. And then it goes into slavery, right? They enslaved the natives, but then the natives didn't want it, so then they get the Africans, and then, you know, that's America, right? So 97% of Gallatin County is white. Fucking course, lily fucking white. It indicates a big, prescient, major white supremacy is going on. 1.6% are black. Native American, just 0.2%, 0.2% Asian. So there's actually as many Asians as there are Native Americans. Native American, this is their land. Native Americans, you know, I don't even know who would be Native American in there, but you need to lift that a Native American up and say, hey, you know, we're not bastard people. We're not fucking racist anymore. Integration happened in the 1960s. So you're still fucking racist. It's 2013. Fuck you. You know, the gay rights movement is the new civil rights movement. And so if you're still fighting, you know, against the fucking black folks because of the 1960s, you're so fucking far behind with the times. You're a fucking laughable joke. You're stupid, right? You're backwards, and you're retarded. Actually, if you're a white supremacist, you're fucking retarded. I'll say it that way. I will say it that way because I would give more credit to a handicapped person than I would for a white supremacist. White supremacists have their own faculties. They can make their own decisions, and they make their own decisions. 97% of Gallatin County is white, and they're going to hate 1.6%. What the? Yeah, you're so fucking brave, Gallatin County, you white supremacists. You live, white people are everywhere, and you want to talk about who's creating the fucking problems, what you think the fucking 1.6% is taking all the food stamps and the welfare, and you're just paying them to live? That's such fucking bullshit. There's way more white people on welfare, way more white people on food stamps in Gallatin County, way more white people who's in politics and running the institutions, and, you know, the mayors and the judge executive, white. So any problems that are happening in Gallatin County, it's not black people's fault. Black people have been a scapegoat for far too long. It's fucking white people, and it's time that white people in Gallatin County, the 97% of whites in Gallatin County, start reflecting upon themselves because they're the ones that are creating all the fucking problems. The 50%, over 50% of Gallatin Countyans have to go outside to get a fucking job. Outside the county, because Gallatin County cannot take care of their own. So you got to have a car. If you live in Gallatin County, you got to have a car. What you going to do, work at some fucking minimum wage job thinking you're going to get something? No, people will see that you're working there. No, it's all bad. So you have to have a car and whatever. So that's a problem. That's a white problem, right? And that's a problem that Gallatin County doesn't need to fix if they give a shit. I would assume, you know, if you see a problem, then you have to do it yourself, and nobody else does anything about it. So perhaps, might have to revisit that. Here's a statue of Albert Gallatin that's being honored in front of the U.S. Treasury building. So Albert Gallatin's a fucking huge deal. And who is Albert Gallatin? Well, he's Swiss, right? He comes from Switzerland. He's a diplomat. He's the Secretary of the Treasury under Jefferson. But what did he do? What's his accomplishments? Does anybody fucking know? Gallatin County? I would be willing to guess that most Gallatin Countyans don't know Albert Gallatin, don't know who he is, and don't give a shit. Hey, Gallatin County, who are you named after? Why? And why don't you fucking know? You have the internet, right? You have the same Wikipedia page that I got. How do you not know the name of your town? You know, and I don't know. I'm playfully hating on them. You know, it's out of love. But Louisville's very much similar. It's very similar here in Louisville. Why is Louisville named after Louis? Who is this? Louisville is whatever I said, Louisville. They fuck up Louis' name, and they don't even know who the motherfucker is. He's a French imperialist who even the French people didn't even like, and he chopped off his fucking head. So they chopped off his fucking head. Louisville, right? So Albert Gallatin isn't as shitty as fucking King Louis the 16th was. King Louis the 16th was a fucking bastard. He financed the revolution, and that's why it was named in his honor. But the French people fucking hated him. Chopped off his head, right? You can't love somebody. That's a weird way to show love, by decapitation. No, the French people didn't even love them, and we're carrying on a French imperialist tradition. So, I don't know, he financed our revolution, but he didn't give a shit about his own people. There was like bread riots. They were starving on the streets, and that's why it happened. Wikipedia names 2 notable residents out of Gallatin County. So, out of the entire span of Gallatin County, only 2 people that are notable are mentioned. And who are they? Who are our most famous residents? I bet you don't know these people either. And actually, I don't even know them because they're not really that notable. Samuel Britton, a U.S. representative from Indiana, born in Gallatin County, and it was 1810. So 1810 would have been before the Gallatin County was real small, so he might not have even been born in Gallatin County. You also got John Taylor, who was a Baptist preacher, and he was a notable pioneer preacher and church historian who became part of the frontier planter elite. He held 20 slaves and 2,000 acres in the county by the early 19th century. So again, he is before 1872 when Gallatin County became the size that it is today. So we can't be for sure if this slave-owning fucking, plantation-owning piece of shit was actually from Gallatin County. I think later on we'll find out that he's from Trimble County. And but I'm going to mention him anyways. I'm going to talk about him anyways because he kind of shows the culture that Gallatin County has had. So Trimble County isn't that far away from Gallatin County, and it used to be all one anyways. And actually, I'm going to write, let's see, Owen, Trimble, and Carroll, right? That Owen, Trimble, and Carroll and Gallatin all used to be Gallatin County. So who the fuck is this John Taylor? John Taylor that come out of Gallatin County, the notable person that come out of Gallatin County. Well, John Taylor is a pioneer Baptist preacher, so Baptist, Protestants. Now my German ancestors were Catholics, okay? So you have a Baptist preacher, religious writer, frontier historian, and planter in North and Central Kentucky. His 2 histories of early Baptist churches in Kentucky provide insight into the frontier society of the early decades of the 19th century. His 1820 pamphlet entitled Thoughts on Missions put him at the center of the controversy within frontier Baptist congregations about supporting mission societies. In buying and selling land on the frontier, Taylor acquired 2,000 acres and 20 African-American slaves by the end of the first decade of the 19th century, thus entering the planter class. So historians call planters anybody who has a plantation with slaves that has 20 or more. And since he had 20, therefore he was part of the planter class. And they were, aristocrats. You own land, you own slaves, society, you have all these people doing all this free work for you. In the slave antebellum society in Gallatin County, you were known as somebody. You own slaves, you have land, you have slaves, then you're somebody. And that's actually very similar to how farmers' children are treated today, right? They have children. Actually, I have one cousin that says, well, the only reason they have children is to make them work on your farm. and you know what? That's exactly precisely right. That's their mentality. They have a slave mentality. And the idea is to have a bunch of kids, enslave them. You got land. You got slaves. You're important. And then because you have all the power, you can fuck up one of your slaves if they try to say, hey, I don't want to be a slave no more. Fuck you, slave. Get in your role. No. Okay, well, get the fuck out of here. I have, 9 other slaves that'll do my bidding and do whatever the fuck I want to do. So, John Taylor's a Baptist preacher. In 1802, that's when he moved to Gallatin County, which it says a portion now in Trimble County. So, he actually wasn't in Gallatin County, but close enough that I think it's an important story. So, near Mount Bird along Ohio River, where he already bought nearly 3,000 acres of land in various tracts. He entered the planter class. He Africans. He sold some of his former land to other settlers to create community. Historians of the antebellum South define planters as anybody owning over 20 or more slaves to work their land. While not all Baptists held as many slaves as John Taylor, by this time most members had accommodated to the Southern institution and stopped calling for its abolition. And actually, there was Baptist preachers weren't allowed in the first Kentucky Constitution to run for public office because I think it was I want to say Elijah Craig, but I'm not 100% sure. But the Baptist preacher at the first Constitutional Convention in Kentucky, they had fought against slavery, and since they stood up against slavery, the other motherfuckers was against that, and they said, well, not only are we going to have slaves, but we're not going to have any Baptist preachers in our government.